All right, Velvet. So first things first, how are you today?
I am feeling very hopeful that the U.S. is going to have a brand new president, so I'm very happy.
That's always a good thing, yeah.
And not to start off it in a political,
No.
I don't want to get into a political conversation, but I do want to say that I think this is going to be good for the entire world. So
I agree. So let's keep it at that. So before we get into the music that you've been making recently, I'd like to jump back to the beginning a little bit. Now, do you remember when your passion for music first started to rise to the surface?
Yeah, my dad put me on the piano when I was 3.5 years old. Okay. My family was at a German-Austrian party, and there was somebody playing piano, so I ran over. Apparently, I don't remember. I was maybe 2 years old, and I was banging on the piano, making sound. And then I just kind of like sat there and was staring at the piano player the entire time. So my dad said, "We have to put him in music." Absolutely. So my parents bought me a Mellotron when I was 3 years old, and I just started playing, and I started taking piano lessons, all the way through my childhood. So that's how the passion began.
And did you enjoy the piano lessons? Was that something, especially as you got older?
Yeah. So, it became something. I loved music. Mm-hmm. As I was doing the lessons and having to play music that I wasn't necessarily, into, I started to have some, reservations, and I started to be a little bit more rebellious. Plus, I was just starting to realize that I was gay and gender fluid, and I didn't realize that for quite a while. But I realized I was gay, and I thought, well, maybe I should start playing sports so people won't know. So I stopped taking piano lessons when I was a child, when I was younger, and started, taking up sports. So I have a big passion for sports as well. Even today though.
Yeah, I read that you were very much into hockey, and then that I think the Maple Leafs. Am I right in saying the Maple Leafs?
Yeah, Maple Leafs, and I'm a Los Angeles Kings fan as well. Those are my two teams, one East and one West.
I spent a little time in Detroit, so I was a little bit of a Red Wings fan, just for a short minute. But
all right, okay, yeah, Steve Eisman.
But in this period where kind of, especially I think in your teens, when your identity starts to become important and you start to kind of figure out who you are, what role did music play in that development? Because like you say, you kind of put music on the back burner in a way. You started to focus on sports.
I always knew that I have different sort of, I wouldn't say that I have multiple personalities, but I certainly have certain different images and different ideas of who I am depending on the scenario and situation. There are some days that I wake up and I'm wearing a baseball cap and a t-shirt and want to go out and play sports. There's other days that I want to dress in a skirt and high heels and put on a lot of makeup. It really depends. I can't say today is one day and one day is another. One day I'm going to feel something else, but that does drive. It does also come out in the music. So as I'm creating music, I realize that we can be anybody we want. It's okay to be anybody. And anybody that we are, nobody should tell us how we should dress, how we should look, how we should sound when it comes to making music. So music is the way that I express it. It starts with the music, and it boils into fashion and other things.
And I'm just guessing at this point, but this is a realization you kind of arrived at over the years, and especially when you're a teen, you're not there yet, I think.
I was just going to say, it's only been recently that I've kind of come to terms with all of that. I've like I said, I've always known that I feel differently on different days, and I didn't know what to make of that until I started figuring out that I'm gender fluid.
Because what I can imagine, I don't know how much of this you did, but did you write a lot of music, and especially lyrics or just journaling even as a teen? Did you write thoughts down?
Absolutely. I wrote a journal and was writing music all through my childhood. And one of the first songs I wrote or started to write was called I'll Follow You. I didn't release that till many years later. When I first started being an artist, I was working with a producer and was working on, mostly his music that he had written, and that didn't really work for me. So I ventured off on my own, wrote my own music, started to produce my own music. And that was the first song that I released. I'll Follow You. And
did that, in a way, set the blueprint then for what you wanted to do? Because there's a lot of things that you do. It's not a regular EDM artist. You sing yourself, you produce, you write the song. So it's much more of a complete kind of package. So was that the approach from the beginning?
So yeah, I mean, I was an artist first. Sure. And then I realized that I'm not your typical artist that would go out and even though I'm writing my own music and making my own music, producing my own music, I wasn't your typical artist that would just go out and sing and want to have backup dancers. And I also wasn't your typical lead man in a rock band. I tried that too, where Velvet Code was actually, I had a rock band behind me, or a band behind me, a synth band, but it was still a band with drums and synth. Right. But even that wasn't fully me either. I needed to be involved in all of it. So I realized that, and again, talking about DJing, I love to DJ, but I'm also not a DJ by itself. Right. When I perform with my Pioneer CDJs and DJM 900 mixer. I've got samplers, I've got keyboards, and I've got my microphone for any vocals that I do. So it's kind of a mix. I'm kind of creating the music live. And so this is from that background you have as an artist and as kind of a live performer. I got bored. I realized I just got bored. I got bored. I didn't know. I would be bored just going up and singing. I would be bored just singing with a band. I was bored just DJing. So I put it all together.
That's very good. When was there a turning point then for you where you felt, okay, now I'm kind of, I have somewhat of an idea of what type of music I want to make or what kind of direction I want to go in? It's always dance music. Okay. It's always been dance music. But the genre of dance music changes. And again, it depends on multiple factors. Where am I at in my life? Where's the world at? What does the world need? I definitely take that into account. All of the new music that I'm working on now, and you can get a sense of the style if you listen to my radio show, Rise to the Rhythm. It's all new disco and house. So that's the style. And the reason why is because I believe that the world, and first of all, I feel like that's the next step for me, just being a little bit more being a little bit more of a character live with lots of colors. And even though I'm dressed in black today. But happy, hopeful music because the world needs it right now. We're going through such a tough time. How much, and I suppose I know the answer, but how much of your music is a reflection of your personal feelings at the time? It's a lot of it. It's always a factor. Even if I'm writing a story, and I call them stories because all my songs are stories. Even if I'm writing a story about the world and something the world is going through, I'm absolutely bringing myself into it, trying to inject a little bit of Velvet Code into it. And I'm not a pessimist. I'm also not an eternal optimist either. I believe, I'm kind of in between, right? I kind of see things for how they are, but I am hopeful though. Oh, that's very good. And like we mentioned in the beginning, and aside from all the politics, I think at this point in time, there is a lot of things to be hopeful for because the whole world shut down. Yeah. And it gave us a chance to reflect on how we behave, how we treat each other, a lot of things, how we treat nature. So hopefully something good will come out of it.
Yeah.
I'm naturally a cynical guy, but this time I'm quite positive.
Yeah, I think we kind of have to be. At least I find it, even if I'm feeling a little down, I feel like it's my duty to be a little bit to be extra hopeful because, and again, not being, too wildly hopeful, but understanding that hope and love are going to push us through these difficult times.
And especially when it comes to the music, then I can imagine that is something that you want to push in the music. You want people to enjoy themselves. You want people to get for an hour all deals of the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I look forward to the time. I look forward to the time when we can, when I'll be able to perform again in front of people and give them that opportunity. Now, we've got our live streaming, things like that to keep people occupied. But ultimately, we want to get out there live.
Well, about this, because now I have to. I can't. Oh, for Teenage Dreamer, your most recent single, you had to be creative with how to present that song because obviously the world is shut down and you had to do a video. And I thought it worked really well. And with what you mentioned earlier, with the colors and kind of a certain brightness to it. So how did that search for new creative ways to get the music out there? How did that go for you?
Yeah, Teenage Dreamer is definitely an idea of the message that I'm trying to share with people. It actually was. It wasn't really difficult to create that. It really was just behind a green screen, and then we just got creative. Myself and my video director, we got creative in finding backgrounds and things like that to get things going. But we wanted to keep it simple. I think that, and if you watch any of my live streams, they're set up kind of the same way. There's lots of dancing unicorns and characters. So yeah.
No, but I thought that because I've seen a lot of kind of interpretations of how to be creative in this kind of lockdown time, and I thought that was a really good one because, as you say, it was quite simple, but it worked. It made sense, and it was fun. It was colorful. So I did think,
Great, thank you.
Going back a little bit, because there was a time, like you said, you started in a band, and you had kind of a band on stage with you, and then there was a period where. I don't know if disillusioned is the right word, but you kind of was out the game for a little bit. How come?
So I was in London and decided to try and create a brand new persona for a very short time, and then I just realized that Velvet Coat is who I am, and I can still I can change and morph into different personalities and different images and all that. None of that really matters. At the end of the day, I'm Velvet Code, Velvet standing for being, fluid and who I am, and Code being kind of the geek of the technology geek, the guy that wants to play around with all the samplers and everything. So, I just want to stay true to who I am. I've toyed with the idea of, doing a project with my born name Marlon, but I still think that today I'm Velvet Coat.
What were some of the, especially early on in your career, what were some of the hurdles or pitfalls you've encountered on your way to becoming a kind of a successful musician?
Even though, so whenever I presented music, I had some success, touring, opening for Mindless Self-Indulgence. We were covered all across the web. We were creating a movement. When I say we, I mean when I was Velvet Coat in New York and I had a band, and we were performing everywhere. But when we would present ourselves to record labels, I could tell that they didn't want to say it, but they were discriminating against us, against me particularly because I was gay. And there was one instance where I was signed to a major label and shelved. They basically put me on the shelf while they promoted another artist in the same genre. So there were a lot of things that happened that way. it's one of the reasons why I created this my LGBTQ plus record label called So Fierce Music, because I've personally experienced these difficulties, and I'm sure that it's still happening on a much wider scale than people really think. The difference is, it's not like the old days when the label, if they didn't like what they heard or they didn't like you, they would send you an email and tell you. Now they blatantly tell you, oh, so we can't get back to everybody, or they just don't respond. Even if you've had a meeting with a major label executive and he seems all excited, then they don't get back to you. Right. It's probably because they don't want to be, they don't want a trail of being somebody that turned the. Now, I'm not saying every artist and every song was of the caliber that needed to be represented by a major label, but I believe I was, and I'm showing that I'm showing now that I was, and so my goal really is to provide a platform for artists, producers, DJs in the LGBTQ plus community and allies. So there will be artists on the label that are not directly part of the community, but are involved and are allies, and giving them a platform and an opportunity to spread love through music.
And I think I don't know if it's the first song being released by the label, but Thrive by Sofonda. So what was it like to finally have that label kind of put into practice as well, to actually get it done?
I'll tell you, I remember the night that the song was about to be officially on Spotify.
Okay.
It's like 11:59. I'm on Spotify, making sure it all went okay without a glitch, right? And it went live, and there were no problems. Thank goodness. It's really been a joy to work with Sofonda. She is a very talented and hardworking songwriter, and artist, recording artist, and she's got a bright future ahead of her. Maybe even Canada's Drag Race. We'll see. And she's doing very well. I think we're close to 10,000 plays on Spotify. We've only been live for a couple of weeks, and she's starting to get some press. She was on mainstream radio in Canada just last week. So we're really excited. I was lucky that the first release was such a talented, hardworking, and an artist that's also a nice person and nice to work with.
And this idea about creating a platform, and you have So Fierce Music, and then you also have Rise to the Rhythm, your radio show.
Yes.
This is going to sound silly, but why is it so important to have that platform and to offer people who might be overlooked at some point to provide that platform for them? Especially if we go back to when you came up, were there platforms or avenues that you were able to go to, or did that not exist at that time?
I sort of get your question. It's, a lot of DJs and producers that own their own record label, they have a record label like Armada Music, and then they have a radio station, right? State of Trance radio program. And I wanted to keep them separate, but they really are, they're all landing under the So Fierce umbrella. Rise to the Rhythm has been going on now for about a year and a couple of months. And, it's morphed into something brand new. It started off as a trance station. Okay. The first couple episodes were trance, and then it went into more progressive house. And then I shifted the style because of, where we are in the world and where the direction of my music is going to go as well. I think people are enjoying it. It's now being syndicated on a lot of different stations around the world. So I hope it continues.
Well, I kind of I didn't phrase that question very well, so I'm going to phrase it. I'm going to ask it a little bit differently. When you were growing up and when you were starting out in the music industry, one thing I hear a lot from LGBTQ plus artists is a lack of representation, either in music or in a platform for them. So why is it important for you to create that platform, so to say?
Yeah, I always tell artists that the one thing I can share, the type of knowledge I can share, the best knowledge I can share is the stuff that didn't work or the stuff that I didn't have access to. One thing I didn't have access to was a network of other artists and a platform to release my music through and be supported as well. So not just a distribution platform like other independent labels, but also a platform where there's Spotify playlisting and there's actual promotion to, further the artist's career. So it's really, really important. And especially in our community when artists are being pushed aside. And, you can see it in the LGBT community. They're the music that the majority of our community listen to is mainstream music because they don't have pop stars to look up to. So my hope is that we can help break a few artists and bring them to our community and to the world.
Excellent. Well, finally, then you were given the chance to remix "Stupid Love" by Lady Gaga. Now, she has been someone who's always been supportive of the community, I think, or at least that's what I hear. So what was it like to be able to remix one of her songs?
Well, first of all, she was the one who inspired me to do the So Fierce music, to basically pull the trigger on moving that forward. So I thank her for that. She's always been supportive of our community, and she's her latest album is just incredible. I was fortunate to be chosen to be a remixer of that song and a few others. So I'm really excited to see where things can go. I'd love to collaborate with her on an original piece of music. Hopefully that's the next step
well, that would
in our relationship.
Well, aside from that, then, what are you working on now that we can expect? Because it's still a confusing world, I suppose, at the time.
Yep. I will be releasing another version of Teenage Dreamer later on in the year. It's a remix, and it's more of a house remix, so that's why I wanted to release it. But next year, you can expect some brand new original material from me, as well as a couple of new artists on the label. A new artist named Danny Diamond will be releasing a song on the label in the new year. And we've got a Canada's Drag Race finalist as well on the label. So I'll be announcing that shortly.
Sounds good. All right. Velvet, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me.
Right.
And
thank you.
I hope you have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you having me on the show.